Hello, how are you? It is once again I, Seamus Keneally slash Cannibal Halfling, whatever you want to call me, here to regale you with tales of my tabletop gaming experience. Um, gonna try something different this time. Instead of plugging myself and my work, or my friends and their work, I'm gonna talk about kind of a general topic. And the general topic of the day is the long-running tabletop campaign versus the limited model tabletop gaming campaign. Okay, now what do I mean by these phrases? Okay, well, the long runner lasts months upon months. It lasts years, even. And generally, you start off at level 1. Even if your game doesn't have a level 1, there is, a low power level part of the game, and just kind of goes and goes and goes until you inevitably reach the end. There tend to be multiple arcs of the story, if there's a story to play through. The limited run tends to be, in comparison, consisting of very few sessions. In my experience, anywhere from 10 to 20, 30 at the max. And while there are definitely different parts of the story, there's basically one single plot. You're not dealing with multiple plot arcs. You're dealing with one plot. You stumble upon that plot arc and you finish it, and then the campaign is over and you move on to the next game. Okay. Now, what are the pros and cons of both? Well, the cons of the long-running game is that, let's be honest, they tend not to finish. The graveyard of unfinished campaigns is a large one. Why is that? Well, when you're playing the same game for months and years, it becomes very susceptible to, well, life. People's jobs or schooling gets in the way. Their schedule changes, so they don't get to get out as much. They get married. They have kids. They have to move, and suddenly you can't meet them face to face anymore, and you have to figure out how to meet them online, and as a result, campaigns just sort of shrivel away. The other problem is, the longer a campaign goes on, the more likely it is that both the players and the GM notice a different game and go, ooh, wow, this new thing. This looks really cool. I'm having fun with what I'm doing right now, but oh wow, this looks really cool. Why don't we try that? Just for one shot, just for a weekend or whatever. And the next thing you know is you're running the new thing instead of the old game, because the interest has just sort of waned. What are the pros of a long-running campaign? Well, my friend Brian LaBerge, the creative director of Beer Star Games, before I knew him as the creative director of Beer Star Games, I knew him as one of my DMs. And he's been having this really long-running, it's crossed edition lines at this point, game of D&D. We're on book 6 at this point. And one of the big benefits of this is that you really get a feel that you're affecting the campaign world. Okay, a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with in book 6 is actually stuff that previous characters of ours in previous campaigns did. So you really get a feel that, okay, I'm in this game world and I'm actually important to it. Like, there will be repercussions for what I do, good or bad. So that's really, really cool. That's kind of an extreme example with kind of an overarching meta campaign. In the other long-running campaign that I actually managed to finish, it was only one game. It went. It was a 4th edition campaign in D&D. It went level 1 to level 30, and even then, even though it didn't have the big, like, ooh, it's a multi-campaign world with a lot of world building and were affecting the world our characters live in, there was still a really, and I know this is an overused word, a really epic sense of what we were doing, of starting off small and really climbing to, in many cases, godhood, or sometimes even better than that. So that's the pro. Those are the pros of the long-running game. I should point out, in about 10 to 12 years of long-running games, I've finished 2. Book 4 of Mr. LaBerge's meta campaign, and that long-running campaign by a friend of mine, Mr. Lance Vance, that went 1 to 30 in 4th edition. 2 in 10 to 12 years. So you can both see the pros and the cons in that. On the one hand, those 2 campaigns that we finished represent a significant amount of very, very fun time. On the other hand, there's only 2 of them. Now we have the limited campaign. What are the pros and cons of the limited campaign? Well, the cons are that maybe you really, really like a game, meaning the system. Maybe you really like the setting, whether it's pre-made or invented by the GM. Maybe you really, really fall in love with a character. And the problem with a limited game is that even if you really love the game, the setting, the character, you have a short amount of time comparatively to spend time with them. You fall in love with this character that you created. Like, wow, I really like this character's backstory. I really like the way they play. And then you've got like max 25 to 30 sessions to play with them. And then they're done. Sometimes you get to come back in another limited campaign to revisit them, but often, let's be honest, players kind of break the settings that they're in. And unless you're in a big meta campaign, you usually don't go back to the world that you sort of broke. We all know what player characters are like. Now, what are the pros of a limited campaign? Okay, first off, you know that you're in a limited game. You know that you have a certain amount of time/sessions to do what you need to do, so you're much more focused. There's not a whole lot of dilly-dally. Like, all right, I've got these goals. I've got this character. That character has goals. I've got to focus on them and get them done. As a result, you get more done than in the long-running game where you have this illusion of more time to do things. One of the other benefits of the limited run model is that you finish more games. I mentioned previously, I've finished 2 long runners. When it comes to the limited model of games, let's see, where's my reference sheet here? I've finished 2 Cyberpunk 2020 games. I finished a GURPS game. I finished a Shadowrun game. I finished 2 Exalted campaigns. Finished. Not played until they died on the vine. Finished. Our characters accomplished what they wanted and sailed into the sunset, or took positions of power in the realm, or faked their deaths and fled to space. And that can be very, very rewarding. Now, I'm not saying that one is better than the other, long running or limited run, but it's something to consider. When you start a game, when you're running it, or whether you're playing it, you should really consider, all right, what kind of game am I playing? Is this a game that starts off at a really low level and then slogs its way through all the way to the highest level and creates this big, epic, huge, very enjoyable storyline? Or are we going to stay a little more down to earth? Are the players going to spend a few sessions getting to know one another and what their characters can do, and then is plot going to happen, and they have to deal with the plot, and then once they've dealt with the plot, the game is over? and you move on to the next game. And that is up to you, and that is up to your group. Till next time.